Hey everybody, before we begin the episode, Artist Decoded would like to offer all of you $25 off of No Wave Academy's David Cheifetz Still Life Oil Painting Workshop. Just type in AD Cheifetz 25 at checkout on No Wave Academy's website. That's NOH-waveacademy.com. We'll also have a link on David Cheifetz's episode on artistdecoded.com. So go there for the promo code and for the link. All right, now on to the episode.
You just have to keep on doing it, being consistent as much as possible, as much as you can get. Even if you can't do it as much as you would like, you just have to make sure that you just don't let it lay fallow, because that's never going to get you closer, and it's not going to help keep you going.
Hey everybody, this is your host Yoshino, and you're listening to episode number 112 of Artist Decoded. Thank you for tuning into the podcast, and this is the episode with my friend, painter, David Cheifetz. I had the opportunity to watch him paint in the flesh a few weeks ago. We were filming his online workshop for No Wave Academy, and I found it to be very fascinating to watch him paint. He had this certain meditative attention to detail, and his patience was impeccable, and his precision was impeccable, and it was very interesting to see this in the flesh. And before interviewing him, I really wanted to explore and understand this particular attention to detail. But this particular idea of detail led us to talking about having intense amounts of focus while painting, which then led us to talking about ideas around painting in Autopilot and what David thinks about that particular idea. The subject of kids also came up a lot in this episode. You know, David being a father of two and me being a father of, well, none. But it was interesting for me to listen to his thoughts about being a full-time working artist and a full-time parent, and I guess how he balances the two out. We also got into talking about a couple of films. One of my favorite films, actually, Synecdoche, New York, directed and written by Charlie Kaufman. We also talked about, and I totally messed up John Krasinski's name up in this podcast, so I apologize, assuming that John will ever listen to this podcast. But we talked a bit about John Krasinski's interview with Elvis Mitchell on the Treatment podcast, which I found to be very fascinating. And yeah, if you'd like to donate to Artist Decoded, please do so at our website, artistdecoded.com. There's a link which will direct you to our PayPal. And if you can't donate, don't worry about it. Go to our iTunes page and leave us a review. Every review counts, and it helps for listeners just like yourself to find out about the podcast. So without further ado, here it is, my episode with David Cheifetz for Artist Decoded. All right, man. Welcome. We're back. And we're back from the commercial break.
It's probably good anyway, because I felt like I was starting to drift off into something.
Oh no, you're fine, man. No, it's all good. I constantly feel like I'm drifting off into something, not into space, just into something, a something void, a void of somethingness.
Totally.
Exactly. Just drifting off in a void of somethingness. Completely uninteresting.
So good.
so good. All right, man. Well, yeah, I guess. I want to ask. Were you into creative sort of things when you were a kid? Like, would you consider yourself a really curious kid?
I definitely liked to make things, and was very persistent, I guess. So yeah, creating things. Yeah, that's creative. I guess I was.
Nice.
guess I was creative. I'm trying to avoid the thing where that all artists say like, oh, I loved to draw as a kid. Yeah.
let me let me give you for this interview something that we can tie it all together. Yes, when I was a kid, I drew, and now as an adult, I draw and I paint. Done. That's the whole.
That's a
That
wrap.
is the. That's a whole interview. That's all we need. Thank you. Thank you for 1 minute and 47 seconds of your time.
All right, see ya.
No, but I mean, I guess like I do like to ask that question to everyone because even if it might not be as linear as drawing now or drawing back then and then drawing now or painting back then and painting now and that sort of like linear buildup. But I think there's some really interesting things to know about your childhood, just about the way that you process information as a kid. Some people or some kids are just like very curious. I think most kids are curious, and I'm sure you can see that with having kids now.
Yeah.
But I guess I do like to tie those things together because it is interesting how the brain kind of functions and develops, and you can cross reference sort of things from your childhood to now in the way that you process information.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think I was always just very visual, like with everything. I mean, drawing and stuff too, but even with even with talking, right? Like with words, like I'm not the most eloquent when speaking, but if I was able to write it down and look at it, then it would end up better. But yeah.
Really, I feel like you're a pretty eloquent speaker.
Oh, well, thanks.
Full of compliments, man. I'm just tossing them your way. No, but I mean, I'm saying that truthfully because when I was listening back to hours of you talking on this on the workshop that we did together, I mean, you came back with some really interesting questions that I feel like a lot of people can benefit from. Very honest. Uh, when people were asking like advice, you didn't give like the typical "oh, just keep doing it" sort of thing. I mean, you kind of gave that in terms
Said
of
that too.
I think, yeah, you said that too in terms of like being consistent, but you also gave more practical tips for people, and I feel like I don't know, it's good to be truthful about those things because being an artist is not exactly an easy process to begin with.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think with those, yeah, I think I have a lot of practice with expressing those ideas during workshops, so that helps a lot. But I mean, I guess that's one reason why I love doing workshops is that I have to think about those things again and kind of remind myself of them also.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. Were you a pretty quiet kid?
very. Oh, yeah, like painfully shy. I mean, at home I was, just like any other kid. But yeah, at school, I was always just very, very shy, very quiet.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, extremely introverted. So yeah, I mean, oh man, talking in front of people or anything like that, public speaking has always been my worst nightmare. Like, you know how they say there's some people that fear public speaking even more than they fear death. Well, that's like me for most of my life. like public speaking is just like what's the most terrifying thing, but weirdly, it's worked out. It's not. Yeah, just I guess just from practice, it's just like a muscle. Ever since I started teaching, it's gotten better and better. Not all at once, but just very gradually.
Yeah, something, being able to put those hours in and trying to dissect the way that you do things and the way that your brain processes things. I think that the public speaking sort of thing is, I mean, yes, I think some people are more gifted with it than others, but a lot of these things are just muscle memory, even like learning how to paint and draw and, you know, doing these sort of like artistic crafts. It takes time to like develop those things. And it's not something that sort of like what's it called? A juxtaposition of ideas about like some people are born with like a certain innate ability, but I also think that it has to do with sort of experiences and the people that you're around when you're very young to challenge you with those ideas and those perspectives as well. So, well, I guess where I'm going with this is that it's such a combination of all these different things that turn you into who you are, who you'll eventually be. And it's those like micro decision making, whether you're conscious of it or not at the time, that makes you be who you are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So many factors go into it. It's hard to nail down.
Did you read a lot as a kid?
Yeah.
Or like in your youth? Not just as, a kid when you were like 5 years old or 6 years old. Did you read a lot of Dr. Seuss when you were a kid? Like, 6, 7, 8? I'm just here actually. I'm actually your therapist, and I'm just dissecting your childhood and psychoanalyzing you right now.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know what to say about that.
Sorry. I just like my brain stopped.
You're like, are you now I got you a little paranoid. You're like, oh shit, he is psychoanalyzing me. That's what he's been doing this whole time.
Yeah. I always loved fiction and fantasy stuff. I loved like Roald Dahl books as a kid.
What is that?
Roald Dahl. He did like
No.
Matilda and the BFG and
Oh, okay.
Boy and Fantastic Mr. Fox, James and the Giant Peach. Yeah, but his books were just like amazing, captured my imagination. But the illustrator that did most of his books, if not all of them, Quentin Blake, I think his name is.
Okay.
It just fit so perfectly with the stories. Yeah, those were some of my favorites. And then later on, I got into like Redwall and Watership Down and stuff like that. Yeah, always been into fantasy stuff.
Yeah. Do you still read pretty regularly?
I would say I don't read it all because it's all audiobooks now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
between like kids and then painting and stuff, it's like if I ever have an opportunity where I could just like read a book, I'm gonna like fall
Mhm.
asleep immediately. So most of my reading is in audiobook form while I'm working.
Have you been listening to anything of interest recently? Like, what are the certain subjects that you've been interested with lately?
Oh, I actually the past few years it's been like a lot of a lot of nonfiction. I like I guess you would call them motivational self-help books. Like
Which ones?
I just recently did the new David Goggins book. That
Oh,
was like,
okay.
yeah, all about like,
Yeah.
being
You're
awesome.
not. Yeah. Being awesome and being like the toughest dude on the
Yeah,
planet.
totally. And like
Yeah.
Jocko Willink books, Extreme Ownership and stuff. And
Yeah. That's interesting that there's that certain side. I mean, I feel like I share a similar interest in that perspective about, I know that you're really into working out and you recently got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but
yes.
I guess it's interesting because it's like this masculine sort of sensitivity that being an artist and also being really interested in primal sort of undertakings that I find to be
Yeah.
very fascinating because
Oh,
it's like
totally. Yeah.
as an artist, it's like I feel like I'm a pretty sensitive person. I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
But there is also the side of me which I feel like is also in you that is in touch with those primal awarenesses.
Yes, completely. I mean, but yeah, I only I think I only really started to realize it like around when I turned 30 or so. Um,
Even with the weightlifting?
well, I always liked lifting weights, and part of that was just kind of like being a chunky kid, and but at least like I was like I felt like I was strong, like so I liked like getting stronger, and then that just became just something I loved to do, just like a meditation, lifting weights. But there was still something missing, and it took me so long. Like I remember my mid 20s, just just full of like this like male testosterone, just rage, like like I had no outlet.
Yeah.
Like there, it was so much. I didn't grow up with knowing of an outlet for it, and I didn't even know what it was. But later, I realized that I needed that like manly stuff. I needed to
Yeah.
get it out, like get the demons out. Like, uh, um,
But do you also think that's because of what was going on in the workplace too, with being an architect?
oh, that totally compounded it. Yeah, definitely was a factor. But I think if I had had something back then that was very physical, but not just physical, but like with jujitsu, like there's something about going through physical hardship with other humans. There's just like there's something about like um, yeah, just mashing sweaty bodies bodies together.
It's like, so it's really strange to talk about because that is physically what it is, right? Brazilian jiu-jitsu is, so for those that don't know what Brazilian jiu-jitsu is, it's basically like a very advanced form of grappling and wrestling, where it's a combination of judo, which is a Japanese martial art, and wrestling, which I believe is just I don't know exactly where it originated from, but yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much what it is. But I think with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, at least the way that I look at it is, from my perspective, I can take those physical and mental skills and put it into different places in life. And it actually makes me more aware and actually makes me more sensitive to different things, whether I'm like conscious of it or not. But
Hmm.
like how has your journey been with going to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and have you like seen any have you been able to like connect the dots between that and your artwork yet?
Oh man, well, yeah, I guess we'll see about that with the artwork, but like um, immediately, like right off the bat, I recognized that it's that perfect balance of extreme challenge and fun and that process of learning that is what made me fall in love with painting, really, I guess. And it just felt so good to be like learning something from the beginning again. Like that is a very intoxicating. Um,
It's a very humbling experience as well.
oh, so humbling. It's a great feeling when I'll roll with someone and I'll just get just obliterated, as normally happens since I'm a one stripe white belt. um, it's great. I love it. Like it doesn't even matter. Like it's just so enjoyable. And then like and then those once in a while times where it starts to click, and like I'm able to do something or get crushed slower than normal. Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
just like, oh man, I like this. It's sinking in. Like I understand this position more, or I can't believe it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very similar to, I mean, we're talking about like learning a different craft and learning how to do something. right? And understanding the sort of basics of movement and being able to translate that into different areas, I think is applicable. I mean, even with artwork and painting, I mean, you need to know the basics and how colors combine and like, um, and have like certain awareness of like shadow and depth and highlights um, and all those things to be able to, I mean, essentially you have to have the tools to be able to have the vocabulary to express. And once you have the vocabulary to express and things start to click in your brain, then you fully understand it as an art form. And, but I'm curious because I feel like just watching you instruct, you're very technical. Like each brushstroke is very intentionally placed. Have you always been a relatively like technical, precise sort of person?
I would say, yeah, I think I've always had been what's it like careful or intentional. Yeah, attention to detail, I guess. Yeah, I feel best when I am very focused on the task at hand. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I like having no boss, being my own boss for this painting career. Is um, I think in some ways I'm kind of a control freak. Like I like to do it myself and own that, um, and try to do it right, and to be able to have time to focus on that.
I don't have like a scientifically proven method for it, or but just from observation, I think a lot of artists are control freaks. You kind of have to be. Well, it's kind of a back and forth, but because at some point, I also think that you have to like relinquish control and just kind
Hmm.
of flow with the process.
Hmm.
But in order to be an outstanding artist, you need to have some sort of sense of control.
Hmm. Yeah.
Whether that be, for you, maybe it's being in control of the way that you perceive color and the way that you um, are intentional with like the mark making. Maybe that allows for some sort of sense of control.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that as you learn the skills, like, well, like at first it's just like chaos. Like there's no control. You don't know what you're doing. But as soon as you start learning those skills, the more control you have, and it feels good. But that alone isn't everything, because like the most fun part is pushing that border where you're on the edge, where you're on the edge of control. You're trying to expand your control because there's something that you can't figure out, or that you don't know what's going to happen. But then you push it, and then you figure it out, and you learn, and then you've gained more ground. Um, and if there's ever a spot where that I'm not doing that anymore, it sucks. Like I'm realizing that now. If I'm not doing something where the outcome is uncertain with painting, then I feel like I'm stagnating, and it's not enjoyable at all. When I'm starting a new painting, I have to think of a way to do something maybe a little bit differently, or that something that's challenging enough that it's exciting to me.
Can you talk about a recent challenge that you've been through with painting, or something that? Yeah, I guess let's start with painting.
Oh, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah, we talked about this when I came down to LA, but yeah, the biggest challenge for me has just been balancing um, parenting and work. It's been very challenging, and not in the way that that I would normally think of with like creativity. It was more
Yeah,
like how to deal with uh, times when there's no choice there, that there will be absences of creativity. Um, a time where you can't do that because you got to do something first.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
But learning to deal with that, I think, it has been beneficial for me. I think it's making me, it's really making me think about why more.
Yeah.
Like if this is so important to me, why, why am I gonna create this painting, or why am I doing this? And I'm
Yeah.
still not sure. Like it's a constant. I'm still trying to think about that, figure that
Yeah.
out.
Talking about relinquishing control, children are, they're not even aware of it. But they demand your attention. It's as soon as they get up and as soon as they go to sleep, however long that may be, it's, you can't just, they're not like a pet. They're not like a dog where you can be like, okay, I'm just going to leave for the store for 4 hours. Not that I would go to any store for 4 hours, but if I let's just say that this store I needed to get something and it took 4 hours. But I mean, with any sort of challenges, you have to either accept it or become victim to it, I think.
Right? Yeah.
Kind of a weird thing to say about kids, but
Oh no, no,
you know what
I
I
know
mean.
what you're saying. Oh man,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm sure me and any other parents out there. Yeah, there are times when like
Yeah.
you're just like, oh my god, you just feel like a victim. But then it's pathetic to say, right? It's pathetic to
Yeah.
say, and it's kind of embarrassing to say, especially in front of other people who aren't parents and may not have experienced that. But and then you remember, like, oh yeah, I decided to do this. I wanted to do
Yeah.
this, so stop complaining. But yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta like just like buck up and like just just do what you gotta do. And but I think that in itself has been super valuable. Like I I feel like because of that, because of like the responsibility of parenting. Like I never thought of myself as particularly undisciplined. I thought pretty good, self motivated, and like get my things done, and like. But I'm exploring a whole nother level of discipline that I never thought was possible. Like when you just got to get some things done, and like, and I'm like, wow, the potential for like what you can accomplish is just amazing. And I would never have like maybe explored those extremes on my own, without being
Yeah.
forced into it. I'm not forced, but like,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
This is always stuck in my head in terms of the subject of parenting. And I remember the first time I met in person with Phil Hale, the artist, for those people that don't know who Phil Hale is. But the first
who
time
are you?
that I met with him, he told me that the best thing that he's ever created was his kids.
That's awesome.
And I was like, I don't know, that really, really stuck with me because, I'm not a parent, but I just thought about that and I was like, man, you don't really know how to experience certain things in life until you actually
Yeah,
experience it.
yeah.
I mean, we can talk about these things and you can read books and, you can look in history and become educated about certain things, but unless you experience it for yourself, you can't really quite understand what it's about, right?
Hmm. Yes, definitely. It's never going to be what you thought it was going to be. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool realizing how little, well, with kids specifically, like realizing how little I knew, or that so many things I thought I knew were totally bogus. Yeah, I still feel like I'm in that like just constant state of realization. Like
Hmm.
it's such a bizarre thing to be. It was like a couple months ago or something. I forget. It just struck me all of a sudden. I was like, oh my god, this is an insane level of responsibility. Like this whole
Oh yeah.
proposition of being in charge of keeping children alive, that is crazy.
Oh
But then I
yeah.
was like, well, people have been doing it obviously forever. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. But yeah, these little flashes of like, whoa, wow.
Yeah. It made me realize, just being around kids, like how lucky I was to have like good parents,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and the power of being a good parent is to a kid,
Mm-hmm.
when that time comes in the future.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're a very like self-reflective person, and for you to understand your situation, or just situations in general that you're in, and like questioning why why you would want to continue painting, or you know what that really means, and not just doing it because that's part of your identity and that's how people know you, and that's how you know yourself now because of people's reaction to your artwork. I think it's good to have that check. And I mean, kids, I think, are one of those things in life that kind of puts a mirror directly in front of your face and makes you examine yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think as they grow older as well, when they start
Hmm.
expressing more what they see about what I'm doing, or what, yeah, or their reaction
Yeah.
to how I'm acting or what I'm doing. Yeah, that's gonna be fascinating.
How does having kids change your perspective on yourself as an artist?
Mm. Well, that's gonna take a second. Yeah, let me think about that in the back of my mind. But while I'm thinking about that, I actually just was thinking about also going back to jujitsu. The one of the biggest things that I saw that paralleled with art was like the issue of consistency. Because just in see, it's been like just over 5 months since I started training, but just in that time, I've seen that there are people who are consistent that come like several times a week, every week, and then there's other people that came in when I started. Also, they came in for like 2 months or 3 months and then just stopped. And I was thinking, like, wow, like, how could you do this for just 3 months and then stop? That's crazy to me because it's so much fun. But on some weeks, I've become like frustrated, maybe, or just been like, oh man, I wish I could have gone in like, extra times this week or whatever. Um, but realizing that it's not, it's the long game. Um, so just consistently coming in regularly, even if it's just, maybe it's only twice that week or something like that, but just making sure that it's consistent and you keep on coming back, that is so much more valuable. And then that's also the same for art. It's just like, you just have to keep on doing it, being consistent as much as possible, as much as you can get. Even if you can't do it as much as you would like, you just have to make sure that you just don't let it lay fallow, you know, because that's never going to get you closer and it's not going to help keep you going.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you have to just learn through that process, even if it's not painting, or even if it's not, it could be a different medium, but maybe that initial medium leads you into creating with another medium, or you can take those skills and that discipline, you know, showing up every day and trying to make something happen on canvas, or, you know, I learned a lot in martial arts about discipline,
Hmm.
actually. That was probably one of the best lessons that I've learned,
Hmm.
actually,
Yeah, and you've been doing it
in
for
martial
a long
arts.
time, right?
Yeah, off and on for like 11 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, but different martial arts.
Yeah.
Um, but I would have been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for, I mean, I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu every once in a while, or well, not every once in a while, every Thursday, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very hard on the body. And the way that I trained early on when I was like 21 was very hard.
Yeah.
So But that is just like the what I had to go through to understand, because I think like with jujitsu specifically, there's a balance of learning the technique and then learning, like, understand the reason why you move in a specific way, and doing it with a certain level of intensity, because as you get
Hmm.
older, your body starts to not be able to. It's joint manipulation. You're doing arm bars on someone, you do that to break someone's
Yeah.
arm. And like these different sort of techniques, they're meant to like inflict damage on someone. I mean, the same with boxing too. It's similar but different. But those high impact sports, your body can only handle for so long. And I mean, you just have a certain mileage on your joints. That's why when I was talking to you, I was like, really, make sure that you like drill and not just go straight to sparring all the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
totally.
know,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess what you're
yeah,
saying.
because the sparring is a fun
Oh
part.
yeah,
It
it's so much
is.
fun. Oh my God. It's just so much fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess what you're saying, like I guess the part of the discipline that you've acquired over these years of martial arts is probably a lot of it is restraint as well, right?
Yeah, it's a balance of restraint, and you also learn a lot of things about balancing your ego.
Yes.
Ego is a very powerful thing that will make you, even if when we're talking about training, right? So, thinking that you can train when you really shouldn't train, and you should probably take some time off. Because for me, like, I'm a type of person where I could train every single day, and I would be disciplined enough to do that, but I know my body can't handle every single
Hmm.
day,
Right.
you know.
The balance part of the discipline is being disciplined enough to hold back.
Yeah, and to recover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought of something.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What is it?
Okay, going back to your thing about what has parenting, maybe taught me about art or painting, and yeah, I definitely know that. So, like, the biggest thing I think I've taken that is creative patience, because before I would, I mean, I feel like I'm naturally creatively impatient. I like to see the results quickly and just go with the momentum and finish one thing and then move on to the next thing. But what I've had to learn, or what I'm still learning or trying to learn, is yeah, the patience of being able to start something where I have like that creative excitement and urge, and then leave it, and then come back to it and revive it, like revive that intensity and continue it. And there have been times, over the past year where that has worked, and I'm like, whoa, I can do that. I can retain some sense of uh, that initial spark, But over even
Mhm.
with breaks in between, I can still do it. Other times, it's been like rough and like it hasn't worked out. But I feel like it's slowly getting better, and that's been a big eye opener. I didn't think that I would be able to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, creative patience. Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping that momentum going and being able to stop and then come back to it with the same amount of momentum as when you left off. It's like syncopated momentum. I could imagine that could be a very difficult thing to have to do. But it's kind of a necessity too, in order for you to continue doing what you do. But also, during those downtimes, do you think of different ways to approach and to problem solve with a piece that maybe you didn't see like at that particular time?
Yes, actually, exactly. That's right on the button. There have been, um, mm, yeah, at least a couple paintings where I was like, wow, this can be an advantage, because that time on a couple paintings, I thought of a way to fix a problem or a direction to go that I would definitely have not occurred to me had I not had that, really extended, kind of slow, drawn out process. if I had just gone full straight ahead, it wouldn't have happened. So I think it can become an advantage, and if I can use that as an advantage, that would be awesome. Um, yeah.
That is an advantage, and plus it's the cards that you're dealt with too. So it's, I mean, I know there's many times when I'll hit that sort of wall of diminishing returns where if I keep on going, then my brain just starts to shut off, and it takes 2 to 3 to 4 times longer to actually do something that would take me a lot less
Oh yeah.
time. I think it's good to be aware of those things and not just be a workhorse.
Yeah. I have a question.
For me?
Well, yes, but not
Okay.
about you. Sorry, but
Yeah.
no,
Well, yeah. No, it's all good. No, yeah.
no,
That's
yeah,
okay.
I was just.
I'm all for me, and then there's like someone else on the other line.
I have the most awesome segues that it's going to really make this really a pleasure to listen to. But
Okay,
no.
I'm looking forward to it. Let me jump on my segue to listen to your segue.
No, that was it. So when you said Phil Hale said that his kids were his most like his best work of art, basically. I was just curious, what
Yeah.
age were his kids when he said that, or do you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think they're pretty sure they're like in their late teens
Mm,
to early
okay,
20s.
yeah,
Anywhere from like I think 16 to like 20.
interesting. Yeah, I was just curious because like my kids are very young, 3 and 5, but as they've grown older, it's more and more. It's just it's just more and more interesting and fun, and seeing how they're becoming. So I can imagine that over time it would just
Mhm.
increase and anyway. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like I'm also realizing they're already their own thing. Like there's almost there's a lot you can do to help, but there's also so little control of who they are and what they'll become. So I'm just thinking about that. Like interesting to think of them as like creations or art. I guess they're the form of they're a creation. I guess that I feel like I have the least control or creative control over.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
interesting that he said that. I don't know. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like life, it makes you almost become less controlled. And almost if you hold on to a certain sense of control over things, whether that be creative projects or uh, people,
Hmm.
it could really work against you in very negative ways.
Yeah.
But I think there's a balance, right? Because you have to have your sort of print, your thumbprint on a piece of artwork, whatever it may be. But at the same time, like let's say you're a director or something and you're a super controlling director that every single detail has to be a certain way. I mean, it could make for very powerful artwork, but it could also make you go
Hmm.
insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? So, I mean, I guess that a lot of things I've been thinking about recently are about micro decision making and how every decision that you make can affect negatively or positively the outcome of the remainder of your
Uh-huh.
life. Some of it you can't control, but you can control what you do in those situations.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I actually found it very powerful. Like I was driving down Sunset Boulevard and there was a billboard for the new Spider-Man movie. And it said something about to the effect of, every decision that you make has an effect on, I'm sure they were talking about the story within the
Hmm.
film, but I think that's a very powerful lesson for people to hear, whether you're a kid or whether, you're an adult. Because if you're 40 years old or 50 years old doesn't necessarily mean that you became wiser, you know,
Oh yeah.
or that you're any wiser than someone that's 15 years old.
Oh man. Yeah. It's so true. Yeah, it's so true. Oh man, that's one thing. Yeah, I remember being young and thinking like, okay, well, when you're older, you just know more. You're smarter, you're wiser, and all. And then you realize that no, wow, they're just still people. They don't know anything. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. We're all just clueless. Well, in some ways,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've stopped respecting old people. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and we can go down a whole American sort of cultural whirlwind of political ideologies, but we won't go down that.
Yeah.
We won't go down that hole. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's been very interesting watching your process as a painter, just because you're so precise with every mark, and I felt like that translated in some. I mean, it has to translate in some way that you process things in your brain. That level of precision doesn't come to someone that is 100% sporadic.
Hmm.
I feel like.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
Well, I'm especially with the yeah. I mean, especially with a workshop when I'm demonstrating. I'm on my best behavior, like with with precision. I mean, like I like to tell students that it really matters, like in being intentional with each thing. You need intent and precision to make forward progress. So you're not just fiddling with paint or making useless brushstrokes. And I realized that pretty early on that well, the things that like whenever I failed a painting or the things that were holding me back from making a good painting was always a lack of either a lack of focus or a loss of focus, like that I was no longer in the moment, that I was just trying to get something done or I had something else in my mind or something like that. Um, and now I've begun to learn that whenever I'm having a problem or I feel like it's so hard to get in the zone for a certain painting, it's like, okay, I just need to slow down and like meditate. Like I need to be in the moment. I need to just be thinking, okay, this brushstroke that I'm doing right now, and then I'm going back to the palette. I'm picking up this paint. I'm putting on another brushstroke. Like that level of intensity. Not only is it more satisfying and enjoyable, but also it will make the painting progress and end up with a better painting. Yeah, speaking of like self-help books, like yeah, one of the biggest ones that really made me stop and think about that aspect of painting was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, I've read The Power of Now.
Yeah, I think you might have mentioned it before on your podcast.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds, like cheesy or whatever, but like it was like exactly what I needed to hear at that time. Like I was very receptive to it. But yeah, I found it like that is so important when you're doing something creative to be in that moment.
I mean, I feel like that could be parlayed into like a lot of different areas in life as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Being present with every single thing you do, and it's hard when there's all these distractions. That I mean, the phone is a distraction. People text me. I mean, I don't get back to some people on text message because I'm just like, I can't focus on this because I need to do this other thing that's needs to take precedent, and just how it is.
Definitely.
But another thing that I found interesting in the video workshop is how you were talking very similar subject about, going on autopilot. I think someone asked you when you paint if you go on autopilot, and you had a similar response about, being very intentional and being very present about the way that you approach a painting, and examining that in a sort of like macro life sort of perspective. I feel like there's a lot of people that do go on autopilot. And because of that, going back to the micro decision making thing, you don't reap all the benefits in life because either you're constantly on autopilot or because you're indoctrinating certain things that society tells
Mm-hmm.
you that you need to be or need to do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I think when you say autopilot, that kind of implies. I mean, when you're on autopilot, you are not there. Like that means you have departed. You are no longer being present. You're thinking about something else, and you're just going through motions without intent. So yeah, like with painting, that's like a big red flag. Like if I felt like I was going on autopilot, I would just have to stop immediately because that's not going to make a good painting or a good experience. Yeah, yeah. I think someone if I remember correctly, someone asked about when I'm listening because I listen to audiobooks and stuff, podcasts while I'm painting. Does that ever distract me from what I'm doing? Uh, yeah, and I answered that no. Like, yeah, I actually missed some of the book, and I think that's you have to have that. Like you have to be focused enough that other things will come second. And yeah, so I've noticed that sometimes like having other entertainment on while I'm painting can be it's like a lazy mental crutch. It's like, well, I need this, otherwise my brain's gonna get bored or something like that.
This is that David Goggins coming out of you, man.
Oh yeah, gotta callous your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's talking about that in terms of running,
Yes, that right.
right?
Like
Not going into autopilot, like listening to music while you run is
a crutch. Yeah, he wanted like the pain of the boredom of it, like to embrace the like just be doing that one thing. Um, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, sometimes when I've felt like scattered or like I'm not in the zone, like it's because of that, and I'll just turn off completely. I'll turn off all music or audio and just like. And at first, it's like this is weird. This is so it's quiet. um, but then you realize that you just become more present in what you're doing. It's just that first step that feels hard, but then it's like, oh yeah, this is good.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll ask another question. Yeah, do you have any more advice aside from the video workshop that where you gave advice to people, but for artists?
I guess that's the thing. I think as time goes on, I am realizing that or becoming less adamant about things that I thought I knew, and more skeptical of my own ideas. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have any general big things, but just for artists, I guess just keep going. Yeah, I mean that's it. I think
Yeah.
people stop going; they just peter off or whatever. I think you just keep going, even if it's not about the end because there's no end. It's about
Yeah.
keeping going. So that's what you're gonna get. That's the benefit you're gonna get is the continual like journey. So if you don't do it, then you're not getting the benefit. So don't stop. Just keep going.
Yeah, I think it's good to put to perspective. I mean, I was talking to you about this that you have to be in it for the long run, the long term. There generally won't be that like particular aha moment where you just hit it. I mean, that's unless you win the lottery as an artist, uh, then maybe. But um, the chances are that you have to think of it in terms of, like you were saying, consistency um, and yeah, and the long term. Be aware, be always being aware of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, like the times when I'm truly creative, or that the creative part of me is truly happy, is in those moments where I'm just totally engrossed in creating something. It's not when something's done. It's like in that part where I'm just engaged in the activity. So that's why I get, yeah, that's the reason. That's like, I think it's important to remind yourself that's the reason you're doing it, is for that, for those little those moments. So just,
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah. The moment is the magic.
Yeah,
That's where the magic is, right?
exactly. Yeah, perfect.
Oh, that's what I'm going to title the episode. You'll see.
Perfect.
Oh man. Well, yeah, cool, man. I mean, thank you for taking this time and doing the being on the podcast.
Oh yeah, it's a pleasure, and yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm honored.
Yeah, of course, anytime. Anytime, man. We're just gonna have the most awkward ending ever. I feel like you're. Are you like restraining some thought or something? I don't know.
I don't know why.
You're
it just
like
seems so funny.
I don't feel like my advice matters. So yes, it does. Yes, it does matter. Oh man, have you ever seen Synecdoche, New York?
Oh man, I will freaking love that movie, but it's been forever since I saw it. God,
I thought you might like
it's
that
so
movie.
good. Well, the part that stands out to, well, besides what's his, uh, Kanevsky? Yeah, right? Kanevsky? Yeah,
Yeah, Kanevsky.
that
Yeah, he did the
yeah,
painting for
that's the
that
first
film.
time I saw his work, and I was like, "Oh my god, who is this guy?" But besides that, the thing that I remember the most is this one scene where, like, um, what Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's walking up the stairs, and I think, and his wife, and she's like bent over, working on one of her little paintings, and there's a moment where she doesn't, it's clear that she doesn't understand his work, or the intent of his work, or his creativity, and there's like a big disconnect, and you can see like the alienation and like the disappointment on his face, and it's just like, oh god damn it, it's so painful, but it's like something that every artist ever has felt at some point, where someone, and like it's the worst when it's someone close to you, where you feel like misunderstood, or that uh, mm, the lack of excitement of something that you're excited about, creatively. Yeah, that part just like stuck out so much to me. It was yeah, I was like, oh my god, this, like,
Yeah,
whoever made this movie, they they know what's going on. Yeah, yeah,
or the
yeah,
nail with the hammer.
yeah. I need to
Yeah.
see that again.
Yeah, no, I mean that was a Charlie Kaufman film. I feel like, I mean, his films are so heady and esoteric that he probably put that in there for a specific reason, because I feel like, I mean, a lot of his movies are about that. You know, he did
Oh yeah.
Adaptation and Being John Malkovich and Anomalisa, and a lot of those characters, those main characters, are about people in isolation feeling. Yeah, I mean, even Eternal Sunshine of the
Hmm.
Spotless Mind, it was about not being understood and trying to. Actually, you know what's interesting about that specific topic about like not being understood is I was listening to The Treatment. It's a podcast on KCRW with the host. His name's Elvis Mitchell, and he was interviewing John Krasinski
Hmm. Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
film, The Quiet Place, and he was saying, I think Kaczynski came to this realization that a lot of the films and the interests and the things that he's into are like his artwork is about that feeling of isolation. And The Quiet Place is
Oh man.
specifically about this family
Yeah.
within isolation, but they're also within an isolation within themselves, within their
Yeah.
family. But especially being an artist when you're existing kind of like in like a different sort of mindset as a lot of people, and you don't have that sort of community. I mean, luckily with the internet, you can like kind of search for that community, but uh, it's hard for people to cope with that. And I think that ultimately not having the support is a reason why a lot of people would stop.
Yeah, I can see that.
If you're around people constantly telling you that you're a failure, or that why don't you maybe if you live with your parents or something and your parents aren't supportive of you, and they're saying, oh, why don't you get like a real job, like is this art thing like really going to pay off, like when's it going to pay off, and then constantly being surrounded by those feelings of negativity, it puts your brain and makes you process things in a way that you um, I mean, that goes back to the
Yeah.
micro decision making thing. It will microly affect you, and then in the bigger perspective, it affects you even more, right? So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh man, yeah, that makes me. Yeah, yeah, I feel so lucky. Uh, I got
yeah,
really lucky with my parents that they were always, no matter what I decided to do, they were gonna like just be behind that. So, but I think that's kind of
yeah,
I would guess that's uncommon. I think most parents, whether outright or just kind of unintentionally, push their own desires for career on their kids.
yeah. I guess, yeah. It's. I guess it's hard not to project your
Hmm.
insecurities onto other people.
Oh, very, very, yeah,
You
very
know,
much so.
As, especially when you feel responsible for like someone else's life, like having a kid. But it takes a conscious effort, I think, to nurture the desires of another person.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You get kind of have to think of them as yourself in a way. That happened to that happened recently. My wife showed me a picture. She dug up a picture of me when I was like my son's age. When he's like 3 now, so it was a picture of me back from when I was 3, and it was like, whoa! I look like he looks like exactly like me when I was that age. And in that moment, I like felt like so much empathy for him. It's kind of kind of weird, perverse, but
Yeah.
like seeing how much he looked like me made me like have more empathy for him, and want to be more understanding. You know, but I think that's
Yeah.
something that maybe I should try to remember more often. Is that like, yeah, just think of other people as like that's kind of like that could be me, or that is me.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, I think we need those constant reminders, and I mean, I think that for you, it ties into the idea of being, I mean, a visual person. So maybe you need that sort of visual, visceral, sort of tangible moment to be able to realize that the similarity, and going back to the idea of the mirror, when you have kids, you have this sort of mirror into um, maybe your
Hmm.
childhood, or things that you could do, for your kids to nurture those sort
Yeah.
of things. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I think about that stuff because I'm just like, wonder what it'd be like to be a parent eventually, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I know I appreciate you, coming on, sharing your thoughts, and giving us your advice.
My what advice?
I said, and giving us your advice.
Oh, I thought you were describing the kind of
Yeah.
advice I was giving. Oh yeah, yeah,
No.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's fun. So when you edit me, all sound like totally awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I may keep some of the funny moments because I think it's
Yeah.
it shows your character, and I like it. But I'll take I'll cut it. But yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
don't worry,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. I don't mind.
Awesome, man. Okay, cool.
Awesome. All right. Is that it? I think.
Yeah, I think so. We're approaching that 5
yeah,
p.m.
that's
mark
right.
pretty soon.
Cool.
So,
yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
No problem, man. Yeah, anytime.
Awesome. All right.
All right, I'll talk to you later, man.